Let's go back in time. The date is March 1st, 1896. We're in the rugged hills of northern Ethiopia, where a truly defining moment in world history is about to unfold. An entire African nation is standing ready, poised to defend its freedom against a modern, powerful European empire. This is the incredible story of the Battle of Adwa.
So this is the big question, right? How on earth did this happen? At the absolute peak of European colonial expansion, how did Ethiopia pull off what to many seemed completely impossible? Well, the answer is just an amazing story of cleverness, incredible unity, and just pure, fierce determination.
You know, our story doesn't start with cannons firing. It starts with a piece of paper. The whole conflict was actually sparked by a really controversial treaty, one that held two totally different meanings for the two nations that signed it.
To really get what was at stake here, you have to zoom out and look at the bigger picture. In the late 19th century, European powers were literally carving up the African continent in what we now call the scramble for Africa. Ethiopia was one of the very last independent nations standing, and Italy, well, Italy had its eyes set on it.
And it all came down to a single critical word. So you have this treaty, the Treaty of Wuchale, from 1889. The problem was there was a massive difference between the two versions. In the Amharic text that Emperor Menelik II signed, it said Ethiopia could use Italy for foreign affairs, if they wanted to. But the Italian version, it used a word that meant Ethiopia must do so, which would have basically turned it into an Italian protectorate.
So when Italy tried to push its version of the story, Ethiopia's leadership was having none of it. They were united and they were defiant. Emperor Menelik II, along with the brilliant strategist Empress Taitu Batul, just said, no, absolutely not. They were not about to surrender their country's sovereignty over a mistranslation. At that point, war was pretty much inevitable.
Okay, so with an invasion looming, how did Ethiopia respond? I mean, it was nothing short of extraordinary. This wasn't just an army getting ready for a fight, it was an entire nation rising up.
So on one side, you have the Italian invasion force. We're talking about 17,000 soldiers, well armed with modern artillery, modern rifles, all led by General Oreste Baratieri. And they were confident, probably a little too confident, that this was going to be an easy colonial victory.
And on the other side, this, an absolutely incredible force of over 100,000 Ethiopian warriors. They came from every corner of the empire to answer the call. I mean, just stop and think about the strategic genius it took to mobilize and feed a force this massive, drawn from all these diverse peoples, all united by one single cause, defending their home.
And this massive army was led by some of Ethiopia's most legendary figures. Of course, you had the emperor and empress, but you also had these brilliant generals like Ras Makkonnen and Ras Alula, who rallied their people and got them ready for the fight of their lives.
So with both sides gathered, the stage was set for this huge, decisive clash near a town called Adwa. Everything, the future of the nation, was going to be decided in a single, brutal day of fighting.
So how did it all go down? Well, the Italian general made a massive mistake. He split his army into these separate columns, and they got lost in the tough terrain, losing contact with each other. This was the exact opening the Ethiopians were waiting for. They launched this huge, coordinated assault, just swarming the isolated columns one by one. The fighting was incredibly fierce, up close and personal. By sunset, the Italian army was completely outmaneuvered and just collapsed into a full retreat.
The results were just staggering. Italy suffered a catastrophic defeat. We're talking about 6,000 soldiers killed and another 3,000 captured. For a major European power at the time, this wasn't just a loss, it was a deeply humiliating shock. And while Ethiopian losses were also heavy, there was no question. They had won a decisive victory.
The Battle of Adwa was over, but its impact? Its impact was just getting started. This victory would send shockwaves across Africa and the entire world, creating this powerful and lasting legacy.
The immediate result was the Treaty of Addis Ababa, and this basically made the victory official. Italy was forced to formally drop its claim and recognize the complete and absolute independence of Ethiopia. The win on the battlefield was now locked into international law.
So why does Adwa still resonate so powerfully today? Well, for starters, it secured Ethiopia's independence, making it the only African nation to successfully fight off a European colonizer during that whole scramble for Africa. It became this beacon of hope, a powerful symbol for anti-colonial movements everywhere, inspiring people all across the continent and the diaspora.
And in Ethiopia, it's still a cornerstone of national identity and pride. And you know, this isn't just a story from some dusty old history books. Every single year on March 1st, the anniversary of the battle, the Victory-Adwa is celebrated as a national holiday in Ethiopia. It's a living, breathing tribute to the unity, the resilience, and that unbreakable spirit of their ancestors. And that really leaves us with a final thought to chew on. In a world where struggles for sovereignty and self-determination are still going on, the story of Adwa is this incredibly powerful reminder of what a united people can achieve, even when faced with what look like overwhelming odds.